It is Friday afternoon in the middle of October, and that can only mean one thing. It is Football Friday here in Weslaco, and the Weslaco Panthers taking on the Harlingen Cardinals. Hello, everybody. Carlos Robledo along with Mike Gonzalez, and it is Week 7 of high school football season. And, Mike, can you believe Week 7 is already here?
The season is flying. The playoffs are right around the corner. This is the time of year where every game matters.
Yeah, we're in the middle of district season now for all the teams across the Rio Grande Valley, including the Weslaco Panthers, and they are trying to get on a roll after losing last week against Hannah. Should be a good game. A little history here between Harlingen and Weslaco. We'll be talking about that during the show. Now, the Weslaco Panthers, if they're going to come up with a victory tonight against the Cardinals, they're going to have to do it without their sophomore quarterback, Jacob Cavazos, who went down with an injury last week against Hannah. You see the play right here inside the 10-yard line, trying to squeeze it in. He goes down hard. Collarbone is broken, and he will be out for the rest of the season. So the Weslaco Panthers, they had another quarterback who was their starter. It's Marco Leal, and he said he's ready for the challenge.
It's been a lot different ever since Jacob, fortunately, season's ended, but it's been a lot more reps for me, and I dedicate the rest of the season to him, and I'm going to try to just make playoffs for my senior year and just have a good run with my classmates one last time.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of an injury bug here in Weslaco, not only at Weslaco High School for the Panthers, but at Weslaco East as well. And, of course, we'll be talking about the Wildcats here during the show. But what was the atmosphere like this week, Mike? You got the chance to visit with Marco. You got a chance to visit with Coach Salinas. What were they saying at practice this week?
Well, the attitude was pretty positive. They know the significance of this game with Harlingen coming to town. They have all the tradition, and they know that, no matter what happens, injuries are part of the game, that they still got to prepare the same way. And, I mean, Coach Salinas talked to his team. He kept them upbeat. They kept the music going through the scoreboard during their practices, and it was pretty positive, pretty productive, and I think they're ready to go.
And they're a young team. They're a very young team, a lot of sophomores and juniors that are on that team. So they're looking forward. They're going to, of course, try to still make the playoffs this coming season, but not giving up on the season just yet. And like Marco said, they're going to make a playoff push here towards the next part of the season. One of the players that we haven't seen too much because he had an injury before the season even started is Elijah Banda. Remember, he was in the rotation as one of the quarterbacks. Will he be seeing more playing time, Mike?
I believe so, Carlos. I mean, he saw some playing time last week. He wasn't a quarterback, though, but being that Jacob is now out, I think now it's Elijah's opportunity now to come in and produce the way Jacob did. And I mean, Elijah did a wonderful job during the spring. He had a great offseason, and then he had wonderful scrimmages before the season started. Unfortunately, got a hamstring injury, which has slowed him down. But I expect Elijah to come in and produce the way Jacob did.
Yeah, he could be an X factor. He's a senior. He's played plenty of football. He knows this game very, very well. All right, so the big question now, we're at Week 7 of the high school football season. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? Or remember, the Weslaco Panthers, yes, they're 1-3 on the season, but they could easily be 3-1. They didn't play in that first game against George Ranch. It was canceled because of Hurricane Harvey. And they could have beaten Mercedes. They only lost to Mercedes by 1 point, and they lost last week by only 3 points, so they could easily be 3-1 on the season.
Exactly, Carlos. Not only that, but at the start of the games, they had a 10-0 lead against Mercedes and a 14-0 lead against Brownsville-Hanna. Now it's just a matter of putting it together. Play 4 quarters, not just 1 quarter or not just 1 half. Play 4 quarters, but that's what young teams do. Sometimes they kind of get in a little funk, and then they fall behind a little bit, and it's hard to catch up. But if they can play 4 quarters, they'll be all right.
Yeah, there's been a few obstacles for the Weslaco Panthers, but we had a chance to talk to Coach Salinas, and he says the best is yet to come for the Panthers.
We've been talking to our kids about controlling what we can control. We got a good ball club coming in, but we think our kids have still not played their best football yet, so we're going to come out Friday and fire our best shot. I think our kids have responded really well. Our philosophy is going to be next man up, so I don't think they've skipped a beat in that regard. And with some guys out, some other guys will get an opportunity, so they're going to be able to get out and showcase what they can do.
The top players for the Weslaco Panthers so far. Well, let's take a look at some of those guys because remember, before the season started, we really didn't know who the 2017 Panthers, who they really were because they didn't have that many players that were coming back. Well, there you see on your screen right there, Marco Leal. He's been the starting quarterback all season long, senior QB. He was also a quarterback for most of last season as well. He's passed for 355 yards, great strong arm, and he's thrown 7 interceptions, but he has 1 touchdown. That's one thing I'm sure he'll want to cut back on is the interceptions as the season continues. And then Jacob Cavazos, you see him there as as they rotated in and out between Leal and Cavazos throughout the early part of the season. 175 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Where they're going to miss him is the rushing attack. He had 306 yards and 4 touchdowns, Mike.
His mobility, Carlos, was huge for this team because they gave him an extra weapon in there in the backfield. They had Payne Canab, they had Jaden Cavazos, they have Devin Dena, but Jacob was the one that went in there, and it kind of felt like more that the defenses kind of feared him the most, and that's what's going to be missed.
Matthew De Santiago is a player from last year who played for the Panthers, 258 yards rushing. He is their leading rusher. He scored 3 touchdowns. And then Peyton Canab, sophomore, he'll be coming back next year, 84 yards. He had a big kickoff return. And then Devin Dena, who's their leading receiver with 149 yards rushing. And then another sophomore right here, Jaden Cavazos. You got to talk about his athleticism on the football field with over 123 yards, Mike.
Yeah, exactly, Callers. This is a unit, as we mentioned, that are really young, and they're averaging over 300 yards a game. So that's pretty solid considering that this is the first year of Michael Salinas' program, and they're used to running for so many years. They had 371 yards last week against Brazelhana and scored 35 points. So that shows me that I think this team is progressing and the offense is growing.
Yeah, we've seen them, and they've come a long way since that first spring game that they had back in May. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this game. And the Harlingen Cardinals, the 2017 Harlingen Cardinals, that's right. Gomez is back, Manny Gomez is back, and he's got his team with him. Here's some highlights that took place last week against Brownsville Rivera, and it's Daniel Ramirez at quarterback, and this is the guy you got to look out for because he could run with the football right there, taking the ball inside the 5-yard line. And one of their top receivers, Ethan Martinez, has 4 touchdowns on the season, and he's one of those go-to players, 357 yards. For that young man, and Martinez, he's one of those players that you could be just sneaky, try to find the open spot. There he is right there with the catch, and then you'll watch him on another play right here for Mr. Martinez. Watch him right here because it's lost. The defense kind of loses him. He's a great route runner. If you take a look at some of the film on him, here he is wide open in the end zone. The Harlingen Cardinals, the 2017 version, Mike, they like to pass the ball.
They do. Traditionally, with Coach Gomez, they would always have a balanced attack with rushing the ball and throwing the football. But this year, it's been more of the passing game that's been coming through, over 200 yards per game, and they only average about 60 yards rushing, cards, which will surprise me a little bit. But I think a lot of it had to do with the loss of Leo Tienda. And so they've had to kind of run by committee, but these receivers for the Cardinals have really stepped up. They just run little bubble screens. They're always quick and fast. And their quarterback, who stands about 5'10", has already thrown over 1,000 yards with 13 touchdown passes.
Yeah, so the Weslaco Panthers, remember, this is a team, the Harlingen Cardinals, they won the district championship last year, and they're looking pretty good again this year. Only 1 loss on the season, and they lost that early on against Mission Vets, and Mission Vets is one of the top teams in the Rio Grande Valley. Mike, what is Weslaco? What are they going to have to do against the Harlingen Cardinals today to pull off an upset and win this game?
Well, they got to play like the way they played at the last part of the Brownsville-Hanna game where, well, they fell behind, 38-21, and then they were able to score 2 touchdowns again. They got to put 4 quarters together, and that also means they got to take care of the football. I know they had a few turnovers, I believe, and they got to convert, and they also got a fumble recovery, which I thought was big time for them in special teams. Special teams was so good to them early in the year. They got to make things happen on the kicking game.
Should be a good game tonight here at Bobby Lackey Stadium. In fact, it's always a good game when the Cardinals and the Panthers play. We're going to take you back to 1992. Mike Gonzalez has a game that he wants to recap from 1992. It was a grudge match between the Weslaco Panthers and the Harlingen Cardinals.
We are looking for an exciting game.
Back in 1992,
Here come the Panthers onto the field.
the Panthers played in one of the most memorable games in the school's history.
Anything can happen when these two
Weslaco
teams
against
are lining
Harlingen
up. We're
at
looking for an
Bogus
exciting
Stadium.
ball game tonight,
Panthers
Chip,
searching
and
for
I
their
think,
second straight win over their bitter rivals.
We're going to have a good one. He goes back to pass. He's
Andrew Gonzalez, who had 10 interceptions on the season, went on to have an all-state performance with 3 interceptions in this game, including this one to set up a score.
Garza
Meanwhile,
is barking
Americo
out. He's gonna
Garza
back to
with a
pass.
gut-wrenching
Short pass
performance.
over the middle. He's
The
got a
quarterback
man
played
open. Looks
with
like it
what was
might be
later
Garza
revealed
again.
as a lacerated kidney after this blow to the ribs in the second quarter. The senior, playing with pain, scored what turned out to be the game-winning touchdown in the third quarter. And Weslaco went on to defeat Harlingen 21-16 en route to a bi-district championship.
I wanted to beat Harlingen.
If you really nitpick and want to pick one true game, I think that was a game that just set me up for the season that I had that year.
All right, and of course the Harlingen Cardinals, their big rival is San Benito, but there's a little bit of a history between these two teams. Let's take a look at the recent history between the Harlingen Cardinals and the Weslaco Panthers. In 2006, an outstanding game. This one was for a bi-district championship that went into overtime, and Weslaco won that game 40-37. And then in 2008, another bi-district contest. That was all Harlingen, not even close in that one. And then in 2014, they played twice. Weslaco lost by one in the first game. Then in the playoff game, for a bi-district title, Weslaco, the Panthers won that game by a field goal. And then 2015 and 2016, it was all Harlingen. But look how close those games, 21-7 in 2015. And then last year, 2016, Harlingen wins it 13-7. In fact, we have some footage. Let's take a look at that game last year because, yeah, the Harlingen Cardinals, they came out. Leo Tienda was there, and he was one of those running backs that could run with the football, did an outstanding job. They also had a little bit of an air attack last year as well. Samuel Duffy with the catch right there. That set up another score for the Cardinals. But remember, the Panthers had a great defense, and they got the ball back late here. Alex Lara running with the football right there as the Panthers making a move deep into Cardinal territory. The ground game working. Isaiah Ramos was on that team. And then Lara had another big run. And it was fourth down. Time was running off the clock. The Panthers had a chance right here to tie the game, and an extra point would win it, but the ball falls incomplete, and that's how it ended. The Panthers end up losing that game by a score of 13-7. So, Mike, it's not a big rivalry between the Panthers and the Harlingen Cardinals, but they have a little bit of history there. And that game in 1992, you were actually at that contest.
I was, Carlos. I was in a student section. I was a sophomore in high school. And all my buddies, we were all excited. We went back to Harlingen because, the year before that, they pulled off a 52-27 win in Harlingen. So a lot of us were like, can they do it again in Harlingen? Because, that rarely happens. And then for Andrew Gonzalez and for Americo Garza to come through the way they did, the significance of that injury, that was very dangerous. And Americo still played with his heart, didn't know the significance of the injury, but still came through, still rallied the team. And Andrew with just an all-state performance with 3 interceptions. And so back-to-back years in Harlingen, not a lot of programs get to say that.
And there's a lot of great stories here in the Rio Grande Valley, all over the place, not just here in Weslaco, but in Harlingen. High school sports across the Rio Grande Valley has a great history here, so we just wanted to spotlight that a little bit, and we appreciate all those great stories here. And in fact, there was one in 1988. We didn't go back that far because we don't have the footage, but that was another big game, Weslaco versus Harlingen. And tell me a little bit about that game, Mike.
That was a non-district game, Carlos, that took place in Donna, and in those days, the Panthers didn't have a home stadium. They used to play at Barbie Field, but in 88 and 89 had to play in neutral sites. In 88 was in Donna, and what happened was that Hurricane Gilbert threatened the valley, so they canceled the week before. The week after, they played in Donna, so Harlingen decided to come to Donna and play a non-district game. The West Coast 24-23 came down to the end. The Panthers scored a touchdown and decided to go for a 2-point conversion and were stopped. Harlingen held down for a 1-point win.
Yeah, just a great game right there. All right, well, let's get back over here to 2017. And we decided to take our own top 10. Everyone's got a top 10 now, so many media here in the Rio Grande Valley. Let's take a look at our top 10. And we have there at the very top, I think no doubt about it, the San Benito Greyhounds. And I'm sure the Harlingen Cardinals will have something to say about that later on. We have the San Benito Greyhounds, number 1, 5-0, solid wins in every game that they have had. Edinburgh Villa also right there, also 5-0. Mission Vets, a team that beat Harlingen, they're 6-0. And there we go, the Harlingen Cardinals are 4-1. What do you think about that top 4 right there, Mike?
Well, I think that's unanimous between you and I think everybody else in the Valley. I think these teams have really performed the way everybody thought they would. Harlingen has looked flawless ever since the first loss of the season against Mission Vets, but Mission Vets is 6-0. So, and Harlingen came through with a huge win over San Antonio Reagan in a non-district match.
So you got to give them credit for that. Right after there, we have Weslaco KWES. The only 2 losses that the Wildcats have are to 2 top 10 teams, but then they've also lost J.C. Vargas. He is out for the season because of an injury he sustained last week. Didn't know about it until later on in the evening when he wasn't feeling well, so we'll have to see what the Wildcats will be able to produce against Los Fresnos. PSJA, they're probably the surprise team in the Rio Grande Valley right now, but the Bears are 5-0 after a victory they had last night. Los Fresnos 3-2. Brownsville Memorial, they are the class right now of 32-5A. They are 5-2. McCallum Memorial, can't forget about them with all their stars. And then Ed Cal Chelsea, they are ranked number 10 at 4-2.
Yeah, Carlos, I think the top 10 teams that we have there, I think there's not a surprise there except for the PSGA Bears. New coach, new program, new system, and their quarterback's having a terrific year. And Lupe Rodriguez, the Mission native, and he's come in and he's really brought up the program a little bit here, and they're off to a terrific start. Let's see how they finish.
A couple of other teams to look out for. Brownsville Lopez is looking good. Raymondville is looking good as well. They could always creep up into the top 10. All right, so what else is going on across the Rio Grande Valley besides Weslaco versus Harlingen? Well, Weslaco East, they're going to be playing at Los Fresnos, and a big test for the Wildcats.
It is, Carlos. Last year, it was only a 17-16 game here in Weslaco. This year, they're going over there. And as you mentioned, J.C. Vargas out for the year, and so is Roy Pedraza. So let's see what the Wildcats, how they adjust with their offense. Their defense has looked stout all season long. I expect them to carry the squad. They're going to have to probably slow the game down a little bit. The Falcons are averaging 32 points per game.
And a big game last night already took place at Sam Stadium. Edcal Chelsea and Brownsville Vets, and Vets wins 21-19. They have the inside track now to the district championship because not only have they beat Edcal Chelsea, but they also beat Mercedes.
That's right, Carlos. Those are the top two teams traditionally in that district. Have a huge game next week against Brownsville Lopez, who comes in tonight 6-0.
A big 32-6A game. Hannah at Harlingen South. I guess we'll find out a little bit more about the Golden Eagles.
If you remember, Carlos, in our very first show, I said look out for the Brownsville Hannah Eagles, and they've been playing terrific football, and they have an opportunity to do even better tonight against a 1-4 Harlingen South team. But after today, they're going to have to play the big dogs of Harlingen, Los Fresnos, and San Benito to close out the year.
And then you got PSG Memorial. They're going to be taking on Edinburgh, and they are 2-0 in district play.
Yeah, that's right, Carlos. After a 61-7 loss in non-district, they had a bye week, and after that, they just looked like a different team with two big-time district wins to start 2-0 in district.
All right, well, that'll wrap it up. The Miriam Guerra Allstate Insurance pregame show is now over, but we'll be back here after the game. We'll have highlights, we'll have scores and analysis of the game. Before we leave, though, we want to say congratulations to the girls cross-country team here in Weslaco, because today they brought home the district championship, 32-6A champions for the girls cross-country team. Good night. We'll see you after the game.